Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. What a great turnout, and it's really good to see the fire trucks here. The reason you're not seeing any ambulances is there's not enough ambos to do the job as there is. We couldn't bring them here, they're all out working. We were affected by the budget as well. They didn't give us any more money for crewing, and our members are flat strapped. No lunch, no meal breaks, 10-hour shifts, 12-hour shifts, 14-hour shifts, no meal breaks. We've just come from a stop work meeting of AMBOs, and we've resolved to campaign against this government from two things. One is to get more staff for AMBOs. We don't care about their budget. We want them to revise their budget. But secondly, I'm here to talk about another aspect of this budget and how it affects us in our own way. And it's really a sad and extremely poor day, extremely poor reflection on this so-called Labor government that so many of its employees have to take to the streets like this to protest against their treatment. There goes one of ours now. You'll see a whole range of green uniforms throughout the meeting. That's our members. They're outraged at the government's behaviour. And let me tell you about our part in this government's story of deception and betrayal. 3 years ago, my union struck a deal with the government, an enterprise agreement signed up by me on behalf of my members, the Chief Executive of the Ambulance Service, the Chief Executive of the SA Health, and the Chief Executive of the Department of Premier and Cabinet on behalf of government. Amongst the many things that deal included, it had an extension of our long service leave rights, new arrangements that match those that already existed in many other places, and that is an accrual of 15 days after 15 years service. That deal was certified in the Industrial Commission. All this year, our union's been negotiating a new enterprise agreement, and in that time, not once was the subject of reduced long service leave entitlements ever mentioned. Wasn't on the agenda. Now, the thing about enterprise bargaining, and by law, it is supposed to be conducted in good faith, where the parties negotiating are honest and open with each other. And when it's settled, neither party is permitted to make extra claims outside that agreement. And goodness knows we've had that shoved in our face every time it suited the government. Yes. When the government announced that it was about to reduce long service leave entitlements, we assumed, because our enterprise agreement was pretty specific about what our conditions were, that they would have to negotiate with us, or at least run a case in the Commission to vary the agreement, because that's what a principled government would do. Yes! Of course, it wasn't to be. The government instead has chosen to make legislation specifically to renege on our certified agreement, like thieves in the night, without a word to us. They introduced this legislation to Parliament last week, such as their disregard for this state's ambulance workers and their disregard for fairness. This process has subverted the concept of bargaining in good faith. In fact, it subverts the whole concept of collective bargaining. We've been denied the basic human right of banding together to bargain about working conditions. We've not been given a fair go. I've been secretary of this union for 23 years, and in that time I've dealt with 3 different state governments, 6 different premiers, but I've never seen the like of this before. I've never seen the like of this anti-worker behaviour from Rann and Foley. I have seen it interstate and internationally. I've seen it from John Howard, I've seen it from Kennett, and we've seen it from Margaret Thatcher, but not from someone who calls himself a Labor government. This behaviour mirrors the worst behaviour we hear of rogue employers. I suppose Business SA would like it though. So we've just come from a stop work meeting, as I said, and for our members who are here today, this is their second protest today. It's a day of protest for them. And the members' mood's clear. They unanimously condemn the state government. And they use these words: we condemn the state government for its unprecedented, unfair, unreasonable and unprincipled reneging on our certified agreement, and for trampling on ambulance workers' rights by bypassing and bulldozing normal consultation and negotiation processes. How can we trust a government that strikes a deal, then disregards it when it suits? How can we ever trust them again? And they've not only trampled on our rights, they've trampled on the rights of every public sector worker here today. This government has a disregard for any concept of a fair go and of looking after its own employees. But as we all know, they do look after themselves. In future, when members of this government are in opposition, as they inevitably will be unless they wake up and change leadership and have proper regard for proper principles, how can they argue against any Liberal government who wants to attack workers' rights in the same way? They're morally bankrupt. It is shown in our case, in your case, and in their attempts to close the parks after years ago fighting to keep it open. They're duplicitous, double-dealing, and they're not to be trusted. So what now? Well, I reckon we need a government that looks after its workers instead of shafting them. I reckon we need a government we can trust, one with real principles instead of Rann and Foley principles. We need a government who does what is best for South Australia instead of one that does its best for themselves. We need to hound this government and to hold them into account. And you remember that slogan against work choices, your rights at work worth fighting for? Well, it's still true, and I'll close with a quote from Bob Marley. Get up stand up for your rights.
Thanks a lot, Phil. Don't know if they're listening up there, but maybe we better remind them that, hey, Randy Rann, put your budget in the can. Hey, Randy Rann, put your budget in the can. Hey, Randy Rann, put your budget in the can. Hey, Randy Rann, put your budget in the can.